Good evening and welcome to the Orange County School Board's regularly scheduled meeting for this Tuesday, July 26, 2022. In case you're wondering about the odd starting time of this meeting, we usually start just a little bit earlier than this. On tonight's agenda is our budget hearing, section 200.65, subsection 2E2 of the Florida statutes requires that budget hearings be held after 5 o'clock. So it is technically after 5 o'clock. Thank you so much for joining us tonight. Board members are all attending in person. And I also wanted to remind the public that the board members will not be engaging in outside electronics or digital communications during the meeting so that we can devote our full attention to the business in front of us. To my fellow board members, district staff, and members of the public, when speaking into the microphone, please remember that they're extremely sensitive, so speak directly into your microphone so our YouTube viewers can hear us clearly, as well as Bobby Beagles, who's sitting in the front row, who reminded me to speak very closely to my microphone. And now we're going to begin with a moment of silence, followed by the Pledge of Allegiance, and I invite you to join us. And now for the pledge. I pledge
allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Again, good evening, and thank you for joining us. Tonight we have special recognition by the Orange County Farm Bureau Association that I'd like to acknowledge before we discuss any of tonight's business or any other recognitions. The Orange County Farm Bureau is part of Florida's largest agricultural organization, the Florida Farm Bureau Federation, which has been promoting and protecting the agricultural interests of farmers and ranchers for the past 80 years. The FFBF also boasts more than 134,000 members in 60 counties in the state of Florida alone. In the classroom, the organization assists teachers by providing them with resources to help educate students on agriculture, where food comes from, and the important contributions that Florida farmers make in their communities and throughout the state. And now please join me in welcoming a dear friend to Orange County Public Schools and the Orange County Farm Bureau's Executive Director, Bobby Beagles, who would like to present Dr. Jenkins with a plaque for her 10 years of service as Orange County Public Schools Superintendent and support of agriculture, the Future Farmer of American and Children with Disabilities program at OCPS. That was a mouthful. Bobby, you're welcome. Thank you for being here. Would you please take the microphone?
I knew I should have been first. I'm going to start off by thanking y'all. Very simple. I'm a grandparent. My 9-year-old grandson, goes to y'all's school. My school board member, thank you for keeping my grandson safe and the other kids. I know you have a tough job. Dang if you do and dang if you don't. That's the way a lot of people feel. But in 1960, I walked out of Evans High School as a graduate. Did I go to college? No. I went to work for my dad. Today, I wished I'd have went to college, but thanks to a company called AT&T, they've put up with me for 21 years. But the job that y'all have to do is thankless in many ways. But I, along with Farm Bureau, thank y'all so much for the ag programs y'all have. You give kids a head start in college by these programs and the courses they can take, and thank y'all. Thank y'all for keeping our schools safe as much as possible. I know it's almost an impossible job. I go to high school at least every 2 weeks. I go by the school. A lot of times I go by just to see the principal, make sure everything is running good. A lot of people don't do that. They don't have the time. But y'all have a responsibility, and a lot of parents appreciate, but you don't get the credit. And to me, I may be 80 years old, but let me say thank y'all. Teresa, you and I have been friends for many, many, many years. And I'll try not to get thrown out of this board meeting. But it comes a time when I step down as of midnight Sunday night. I will retire after 30 years. 12 of those years have been executive director of Orange County Farm Bureau. The same way 12 of those years Mrs. Jenkins has been here. I had the opportunity 12 years ago to put her on a horse at a ranch and let her go horseback riding. I don't know who shook the worst, her or the horse. But she done it. And we're proud of her. We're proud of the job she's done because she has done a good job. Underneath y'all's leadership, y'all have done a good job. Denton, you who know me, know I would tell you, you didn't do a good job. But you have a hard job trying to please everybody that you try to please. It's tough, and I understand that. But thank y'all so much for keeping our kids safe. That is the most important, is keeping our kids well educated and safe. Now, I will say to you, this morning, my wife delivered me a new cell phone. And I'm going to end up going to my 9-year-old grandson tonight and say, how do I turn this joker on? Because it ain't nothing like my flip phone. But I can't use my flip phone no more. So maybe y'all need to have some phone courses for us old men where we can learn how to use these things. But again, thank y'all. I want to thank y'all for help sponsoring the new facility. It will be at East River High School. We were glad to partner with y'all. The building is under production. It will be somewhere between 8 and 12 weeks before it is delivered. But it is paid for 100% by Orange County Farm Bureau and Orange County School Board. Thank y'all. The Special Heart Farms building is doing very well. We'll see how we do with the new project for the adults coming. But again, Ms. Jenkins, thank you. Every time she goes visit, I get a little more land from her. But we thank you for what y'all have done for the special kids and FFA. I can say when y'all, Ms. Jenkins came in, our FFA programs was in a serious downfall. Today, they're at max. And again, it's underneath good leadership. And thank y'all for that. With that, Ms. Jenkins, if you'll come down, I'll hush and give you your plaque. Outstanding Decoration Award presented to Dr. Barbara Jenkins, Orange County School Superintendent, for her outstanding leadership for 12 years to serve in support of the ag education professional and for the service of the special needed students in Orange County school system. Presented to you by Orange County Farm Bureau in 2022. Ms. Jenkins, let me say to you, you only said one thing when you became superintendent. Will you support agriculture? Our organization has been 100% behind y'all ever since, and we thank you. Looking forward to get with Maria very shortly and talk to her and see where we go from there. I think we will continue on the same avenue as you have set for an outstanding job. We thank you for what you have done. You have never refused a phone call. I know that. But you have been a blessing to our kids trying to get an education in agriculture. And thank you so much.
All right, Bobby, I think you need to go back to that podium over there. This group is not done with you. You may think that you're retiring, and that means that we got nothing left to say, but the entire board is lit up right now. So let me start with Member Gallo.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Bobby, what are we going to do without you?
I can't hear you. You don't have to speak up. I'm hard of hearing.
I said, what are we going to do without you? I met Bobby 4 years ago, right when I was elected. When I got through the primary, we had a big fish luncheon in Apopka. Your commitment to our kids, to the FFA, to agriculture, what you've done in Orange County is just amazing. What we are about to do over at East River with Falcons Farm, and what that will do to help special needs kids is been a dream since I became school board member, and I'm so thrilled that it's going to be at East River, and I'm so thankful for the Farm Bureau for all your help in making sure that happened, because it wouldn't have happened. It wouldn't have happened without Bobby. There's no doubt in my mind that we wouldn't be about ready to put a barn over at East River that will help kids for years and years and years to come if it wasn't for your dedication and your hard work. So I just want to say thank you from the bottom of my heart. I know where you live, and you live out near me, so I know that I'll be seeing lots of you, but I just want to say thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Member Gallo. Let's hear from Member Gould.
Well, this was a hard one for me because Bobby doesn't embody his job. He embodies the kind of leader that we want in this community, that's dedicated to the mission of service to our children and to our agricultural community. We've been able to work together since I've been on the board in creating what's now becoming a prototype with the design of Special Hearts Farm and the public-private partnerships that made possible. And he was there the very first night. We gathered a small group of people together just to brainstorm how to make that possible, and made me come in the pouring rain to tour the original location at Dr. Phillips High School, which I was going to go to, but it was pouring rain. He's like, no, I'm here. You got to come. So I trekked in the rain, changed the shoes, trekked in the rain, and it was one of the best experiences that I've ever had, and haven't looked back since as we've moved that forward. But your vision, your pure will, and your open heart have been a gift that most people don't even know they've been touched by in this community. And I would venture to say that almost every single person living in Orange County has been touched by you in some way through the work that you have done. So thank you so much.
Thank you, Member.
Let me say this. There's not too many people that will get out in a pair of high heel shoes and it's raining cats and dogs and walk up to see a bunch of animals at 8 o'clock in the morning at a school. Thank you. Because I probably owe you a new pair of shoes because they were soaking wet when we left there. But after I drove from Christmas to Dr. Phillips High School, I wouldn't about not to go see what we had to see. But thank you for that day, and it's been a blessing ever since because we have moved forward with y'all's help with that program ever since that day. And thank you.
Bobby, I'm going to take executive privilege here and just interrupt for just a minute. I know everyone else wants the answer to this question. Do you have pictures?
I can't.
No pictures of Pam in the rain with her high heel boots. Well, it would have been good. All right, let's hear from Member Felder.
Thank you, Chair Jacobs. Mr. Bobby Beagles, when I was running for this position, you know, I had to meet a lot of people, and I remember getting the invitation to come to see you in Apopka at this fish house. And I think you were going to see some other candidates, but I don't know whether you did or not because we spent hours just talking, and my girlfriend that rode over with me, she said, well, I'll just get some tea, they'll be out in a minute. She ordered a whole lunch. We were still in there talking. But what I wanted to say to you was my first time meeting you, and I found out we knew some of the same people. Your cordiality will be something I will always remember. And you made me feel so welcome. And I knew of agriculture, and because I taught, you know, for 30-some years, and I had students who were agriculture students, but everything that I thought I knew, you knew more, and you were explaining it to me, and helped me to understand what all that meant. And I had a much more, after Alex Smith, I had a much more appreciation, because Alex Smith, Dr. Phillips, really helped me to understand and appreciate agriculture, but you took it to another level, you know, and I saw it was because of your love and your dedication to the children in this district, and the fact that you took out the time to talk with me, to explain to me what you wanted to do and how you wanted to help me do my job better as a school board member. And you knew the district, you went to Evans High School, you knew where Old Winter Garden Road was up the street from my house. When you said that, I was okay, he's all right, okay. You know the hood, okay. So I just wanted to say that you will be missed. This is, you know, my first time meeting you, but that short time, having to come to the realization that you're going to be leaving. As Juliet said to Romeo, parting is of such sweet sorrow. It is. It is going to be sweet, but it's sorrowful also. So thank you for your love for this district and for the children and for your commitment and support to this board of fine women. Thank you so much. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms.
Thank you.
Member Felder. Let me hear from Vice Chair Byrd.
Mr. Beagles.
Don't know him. Bobby's doing fine.
Well, my board members have already said most everything I want to say, but you know, I haven't had the years and years and years of friendship like you've had with Teresa here, but in the 4 short years that I've known you, I truly do feel like you are a friend. I can call you, ask for your help when I need it, and you're always willing to give it. And just as Member Felder said, you care about us as board members. You're always, you know, asking what you can do for us, and you care so much about the kids. And, you know, I've seen you on more than one occasion tear up with our kids at Special Hearts Farm. And you're so appreciated. And a good example of the way he helps with things that aren't even maybe in his wheelhouse was last year with our Wekiva culinary program that was going to NASA. They needed help getting there, and they had sent letters to the mayor of Orange County and, you know, all different people trying to raise this money to go because it was very expensive. And Bobby got wind of it. Next thing you know, the Farm Bureau is giving them a huge check to pay for their trip to go to NASA.
And while they use the agriculture products to cook, it's not directly an agriculture program, but he didn't care. He believed in their ability, and he loves kids. You love kids, and it's apparent in everything you do. And I want to personally really thank you for all the work you've done with Special Arts Farm, as Member Gould said, and now with the extension over on the east side of town, because anyone that steps foot in that facility knows the second they get there that this is a special place, and special things are happening there every day. It really is one of the most tremendous programs Orange County Public Schools has, I believe. And now they're moving into a new facility, and it's growing, and it's because of the support from Dr. Jenkins and from all of your support and the farm bureaus. So that's really changing lives every day. And so anyway, I'm going to miss you terribly, but I still have your phone number. You'll still have the same phone number with that phone, I'm sure. So we'll be talking. But congratulations, and enjoy your time off with your wife.
I believe your group placed third in the nation.
They did. Yep.
And let me say, Saturday night when the mayor staff presented my award from them, they brought that up at thanks to y'all. They got the letter. They could not donate the money. And thank you for calling, because we had the funds left over from a FFA project at the state had canceled. So it was no problem with us writing a check. The only thing I needed was 7 votes, and we had those 7 votes immediately. But thank you and for what you've done for those kids. And this is a whole ball game. Anytime you can invest in a kid, you are making progress. And this is the thing that I love so much about Farm Bureau, and is the reason I've been with them for 30 years. We came to help kids. 30% of our budget is spent on 4-H and FFA students going to national conventions. We have a scholarship plan at the University of Florida. It's the second, third, and fourth year if they get an education from Orange County in agriculture, they can apply for that scholarship. But we didn't have enough of kids applying for our scholarship, so we opened it up to every county that touches Orange County. So Lake County, Seminole County, Osceola County, if we can't fill the scholarships, they are filled with other counties' kids. And that's the thing about Farm Bureau. And the only thing that we ever asked, and Ms. Jenkins fulfilled it, don't mess with our FFA programs. They are good. The kids, I came up, ain't no telling where I would ended up if I hadn't came up through the FFA program in Orange County. And back in those days, you didn't give teachers a hard time, because my ag teacher was about 6'6" and weighed about 280, and he would pick you up by the belt and lift you up and said, "Son, it's time for you to sit down and hush." But you can't do that no more. But back in those days, they done it. But again, y'all have a heart that a lot of people don't understand. Us in agriculture does understand y'all's heart. Yes, you can't step over the rules sometime, but you can come up to the edge of those rules. And that was the thing that was really scaring me to death over the building. If we lost the funds from the state, which we was number 4 on the governor's veto list, but our board said if we don't get the money from the state, we're not going to let this go away because the kids need it. And thank y'all. Yes, I know it was an investment for both of us, because it ended up being about $150,000 overall when everything is done. But the funding is there. The special need kids will have animals, a teacher who is already on the payroll. And thank y'all, because there's only one other project like this in Orange County. And Pam, thank you for getting wet that day, because if you hadn't have got wet that day, we probably wouldn't have never got that new facility on the west side of town. And thank you. And thank Ms. Jenkins for having the heart to take on and say, we're going to do this. Maria, you got a big pair of shoes to fill. But there ain't no doubt in my mind they won't be filled. But thank y'all, and keep up what you're doing. If you're not doing right, you know I'll tell you. And Teresa, you know, because we worked together for the whole time you was mayor, the whole time you was county commissioner. And we thank you for the things. I'm still got things that we got when you was mayor, it was doing. But Barbara, we'll miss you. We wish you the best. You have done a good job. If you hadn't, I would tell you. And that's the one thing about me, I don't beat around the bush. I have been asked to leave meetings before. But thank y'all. Thank you for the nice things. But I don't do it for that. I do it for help to kids. And I will continue. Monday morning, me and my wife both will be put on Special Heart Farms board.
Awesome.
I would not take it for where I was at due to the fact I was concerned of it being a conflict of interest. So I stayed off the board, but Monday morning we will be put on that board. I'm on the East River High School, Falcon Way. I'll be there with Angie. It's a start. I know that somebody would like to have one of these in every school in Orange County, but it's expensive. I understand that. My goal is trying to have one south, east, west, and north, which would be 4. Down the line, if these things work out, I think we can go back to the state and ask the state to help fund them, and we can get the funding down the road. And I will work on that till the day I pass away. Then thank y'all. God bless you. And for the special kids that can't help themselves, I'll thank you for them too. Thank you.
And member Bobby, you may be finished, but we aren't. I'm so sorry, my friend. Member Lopez wanted to make a few comments.
Thank you, Madam Chair. It was an honor to meet you. I really enjoy our conversations. Thank you for educating us, for advocating for our ESC students, for the FFA programs, and also to spend 4 hours in our Colonial High School events for the FFA initiation. I always, see you there with your wife, supporting us since the beginning of the event until the end. We start maybe 6 p.m. and we even be there maybe 9:30 or 10 p.m. and you're still there till the end, congratulating our students. I can see, your commitment, but also the love from the heart with our staff and also for our students. So I highly appreciate that. I know that you're retiring. Congratulations on your retirement. I know you're not gonna retire completely because you're gonna be watching us and we highly appreciate that. We need leaders like you to support our school system and help us to become better leaders. So thank you so much. Congratulations on your retirement. I want to end it positive and enjoy your retirement life with your wife. So thank you so much for all you do.
Now can I go?
You're pretty close. You're pretty close. I'm the only person who hasn't spoken yet. I'll make it short. Everybody else talked about when they first met you. I've lived here for 30 years. I think I might have met you before I was born. I honestly cannot remember a time since I've been in Orlando that I didn't know Bobby Beagles. So I don't remember the very first time, but you've always left an impact on me. We've gotten some good stuff done. And we had a few bumps along the road. And Bobby's right. When he doesn't agree with you, you're going to know it. But we always found a way to make sure that everybody got what they needed, the East and the West and the North and the South. And I'm sure you're going to continue to make sure that everybody gets what they need. So don't be a stranger. I'm thrilled to hear that you are going to stay involved. Absolutely thrilled, because I'd be worried, frankly, about you if you didn't stay involved, and I'd be even more worried about your wife. But we love you. I love you dearly. Thank you, and Godspeed.
My wife still makes good banana pudding.
Yes, sir.
Teresa, you know, I could stood here all night and thank you for the things you done for agriculture when you was county commissioner and mayor. And we see those things coming over to what the school board is doing for the FFA. Every high school with a FFA program on it, and I think when Ms. Jenkins and some of y'all took over, there was only 11 today, every high school. Those are the things that gives the kids a opportunity. Every kid is not going to college. It wasn't that my parents couldn't afford to send me to college. I could have went to college free of charge. My real father got killed in the service in 1945. I never knew him, but I could have went on a government scholarship to any college in the United States, but I did not want to go to school. When I stepped out of high school, I got married. I was married for 5 or 6 years. And I worked for my dad until the opportunity to come along for me to go to a better company, and it was AT&T. I have been to so many electronic training schools throughout the United States, and I have traveled the whole United States. I built the 911 circuit that runs this county without a college education. AT&T trained me, and I appreciate what they trained me. This is the same education that some of these kids is getting in the FFA now. Those programs are there, they can get into in high school, and they can go forward with them. These are the important things of this program, that we keep it running with good backing from our school system. Thank y'all. God bless you. And thank you for keeping my grandson safe. Because I know Angie don't want me calling her at home and saying what's going on. And Angie, thank you. Teresa, I love you.
Love you too.
Ms. Jenkins, thank you so much. I hate for you leaving. I was hoping that you would be there for a while longer, but we understand. Time, as my wife said a month ago, it's time for you to say goodbye because I'm tired of doing all your work. Thank y'all.
Okay. Before we move on to our formal business, we do have one other special recognition. So I'm going to ask if the board would join me, if the superintendent would join me. I want to go up in front of the podium for this special recognition. All of us. Boy, I tell you what, they don't listen to me very well, do they? I'm looking at you thinking that I am. Oh, Andrew, definitely get that thing straight. We can't have a cooking. I just a school board member. Ooh, especially not one room in the budget. Oh, boy.
Don't break nothing. We might need the money for agriculture.
Thank you all. Thank you. Part of our strategic plan is focused on a dedicated and hardworking team. We have a tradition here at OCPS where we recognize our team members. We recognize them at specific occasions. We recognize them at their 10-year mark, and their 20-year mark, and their 30-year mark. Unfortunately, we failed to recognize one of our most important employees, the leader of the team, for her 30-year mark. We missed it by maybe a day or two. We're darn close. But it's coming up, or it just passed. So I thought it would be great for all of us women here on this board, to spend just a minute reflecting on the incredible impact that Dr. Jenkins has had on the lives of hundreds of thousands of students and generations, multiple generations of students. And I say it all the time, graduation rate in 2000 of 50%, just under, to a graduation rate of 98.7 now is absolutely phenomenal. And it points to a bright future that wouldn't have been possible without extraordinary leadership. But leadership usually has some place from which it draws strength, some mentorship, someone, some group that has helped them along the way. So in joining us today, I also asked if my predecessor, Chair Bill Sublette, would join us. And I asked if Dr. Jenkins' predecessor, Superintendent Ronald Blocker, would join us. Go ahead, give her the flowers. I'm just going to say a few more words, and then I'm going to turn it over to these gentlemen. Before she became a superintendent, Dr. Jenkins was a teacher, an assistant principal, a senior director of elementary education, all of that with Orange County Public Schools. After a few years away from Orange County Public Schools as the assistant superintendent of human resources in Charlotte, she returned to OCPS as chief of staff and deputy superintendent. Good move, Ronald Blocker. And for countless contributions that Dr. Jenkins has made to OCPS, and as I mentioned before, those hundreds of thousands of students whose lives you have changed forever. I join my predecessor, your predecessor here today in this auspicious occasion, and not conspicuous occasion, to say thank you and to recognize a phenomenal career that you have had here at Orange County Public Schools. And now let's hear from your former school board chair. Love you.
I love you too. Well, hello. You know what a pleasure it is to be back here among old friends and to be able to be here to honor somebody that I probably respect as much as anybody I've ever had the opportunity of working with in my years of public service and in this community, Barbara Jenkins. I was asked a little bit earlier about a line I used to say when I was school board chair. One of my first jobs when I got on the school board was to hire a new superintendent with my colleagues on the board. And I know you all just went through that again, and I would tell everybody from the media the single most important job that the school board has to do is to hire a superintendent. And I was asked by that person, well, how do you think you did? And I said, well, you know, that's easy. We hit an absolute grand slam home run when we hired Dr. Barbara Jenkins. She has brought to this district, I was asked to describe her, and I said, you know, it really can be summed up in two very simple words, and those two words are sustained excellence. Because when she took over the helm here, Ron Blocker, her predecessor, who was a fabulous superintendent, and who we have to thank for identifying her talent and for nurturing her talent and for developing her. We were an excellent school district on the cusp of greatness. And under Dr. Jenkins' leadership, we had become, not just by our own opinion, but by public acknowledgement, by the media, by the community, by the state, and by the country, as the best, or one of the best urban districts in the entire country. That's reflected in our A-district ratings. That's reflected in the Broad Prize. That's reflected in her Superintendent of the Year honors that she has won. That's reflected in the recognition we get throughout this, not just this state, but this country as being a well-run, excellent school district. And she does something that's very, very important as well with the leadership of the board as her partner. And that's a very important word, partnership, because she's always worked in partnership, not just with the board, but with the teachers, with the unions, with the families, and with the students of this community. And what she does, when you think about it, it's going to sound a little bit odd, but it will not to my friends on the school board, is if you've ever thought about it, we're almost never in the paper for anything bad. Now, that sounds a little bit odd, okay? But I used to, and I think my school board members may be able to relate to this, sometimes I would measure success by the number of months that went by where I only read good articles about Orange County Public Schools and nothing negative. And I can't think, literally, I can think of almost nothing negative that's written or said about this district. And in fact, when I think back at the coverage we get and the recognition we get, it's almost universally favorable. And lastly, and I'll say this, and I'm going to turn it over to Mr. Blocker. I've always said when I was on this board that our single most important constituency were the families of Orange County and the children of Orange County. And I've always been especially proud of Dr. Barbara Jenkins in that she always put students first and she put families first. And regardless of the fallout from a decision that she would make as superintendent, regardless of how it would be perceived in some quarters, her guide star, her polar star, was always the families and the students of Orange County. And for that, I'm extremely proud that I got to serve with you, as I'm sure all these board members are, and my colleagues when I was on the board. And congratulations on 30 years of service to the students and the families of Orange County. Congratulations, Dr. Blocker.
Well, if past Chairman Sublette will remember his first State of the District speech, I was transitioning out and you were transitioning in, and we had this large prop of a pencil that I was supposed to turn over to Barbara Jenkins, symbolic of the fact that she is now the new superintendent taking over the duties. And as I will say, as unique as that scene was, it pretty much made me feel good that you were large and in charge from that point on, and knowing that when I'm leaving the district in good hands. And it takes me back to when we first talked about you coming over from North Carolina, and I had heard good things about you. But the questions you were asking me, I remember leaving that meeting and saying, she just doesn't want to come here. She's not coming here just to run HR. She's preparing herself for a bigger and brighter future. And I remember thinking, okay, if she accepts my offer, I'm going to make sure she has every opportunity to do that. And you took advantage of every opportunity that was out there and excelled at it. You were awesome. And at the core, as you stated, Chairman Sublette, at the core of your decisions, I can remember us having our late meetings where we're talking through things, and you said, but this has to be good for our babies. This has to be good for our babies. She was always focused on the students. I felt good about that. I also felt good that you were wickedly smart because I knew that you were not only going to come up with the right decision, but you would have analyzed it both on pros and cons, and you had massaged it enough to I knew that I would be getting the best recommendations that could happen. So back then, remember we had our little nicknames for each other, and you called me Sensei, and I called you Grasshopper. Well, now you are Sensei, and you're about to hand the pencil over to Maria Vasquez. Okay.
That's great.
And again, you have to feel good about turning the district over into good hands. So, Dr. Jenkins, Barbara, former Grasshopper, it's my pleasure to recognize your 30 years of service in Orange County. 30 years, with a slight break, but you made up for it, with your 30-year pin.
Let's get a picture of her. Okay.
Let's get out.
So it's going to be in the middle?
12 and a half, 13, it's like 26 actually, just double the years. So I had hair when I started.
Oh, yeah, you got,
Yeah, well,
superintendent said that, yeah, that's a good one.
I had hair.
It's good to see you.
Oh, stop it. I'm starting to look old.
Nobody knew.
Till we got here.
Mari didn't know. Uh-oh. You know what? I think I left remarks up there. You wouldn't happen to have a second set of remarks, would you?
Yes.
Let me borrow yours if I can. I think I'm about at the right spot, but
This is pre-agenda.
let's see.
It's all in one, right? Yeah.
Yeah, here we
that's
go. Oh, thank you. Thank
you got
you.
it.
Yes, thank you. Oh, yeah, would have missed some stuff. All right, we are ready for our formal portion of our meeting. Dr. Jenkins, do you have any newly appointed administrators to recognize tonight?
Madam Chair, we have 30,
Wow.
so I will go through them swiftly. Joshua Alexander Atkins is the new assistant principal at Pine Hills Elementary. Malomo Awadele Brown is the new assistant principal at OCPS ACE. Sarah Nicole Becker is the assistant principal for Maxey Elementary. Lysette Cantagna is the assistant principal for Pinar Elementary. Adam David Concanon, assistant principal, Corner Lake Middle. Amy Lee Diedrich, assistant principal, Panther Lake Elementary. Cameron Blaze Hance, assistant principal for Boone High School. Elizabeth Hart, assistant principal for Howard Middle. Janaris Hernandez Velazquez, assistant principal for Conway Elementary. Christina Ann Hopkins, assistant principal for Gotha Middle School. Andrea Parks Kaiser, Assistant Principal for Water Springs Elementary. Maurice Antoine Simmons, Assistant Principal for Carver Middle. Rose Apollon Simon, Assistant Principal for Lake Jim Elementary. Lauren Morris Smith, Assistant Principal for Meadowbrook Middle. Janice Stanberry, Assistant Principal for Sunridge Middle. Michelle Amy Vidal Lado, Assistant Principal for Wyndham Lakes Elementary. Ronald Washington, Assistant Principal for Wolf Lake Middle. Holly Watts, Assistant Principal Sally Ride Elementary. Tara Wilson, Assistant Principal for Sunblaze Elementary. Rolando Bailey, Area Superintendent, Southeast Learning Community. Tabitha Brown, Principal Phyllis Wheatley Elementary. Alicia Duarte, Assistant Principal Freedom High. Jennifer Davidson Lawrence, Principal of Orla Vista Elementary. Meredith Leftakis, Area Superintendent, North Learning Community. Elise Mills, Assistant Principal for Camelot Elementary. Kenya Nelson Warren, Principal of Evans High School. Danielle Monet Spooney, Principal Inglewood Elementary. Janika Sweet, Assistant Principal Colonial High School. Aja Wilkins, Principal of Spring Lake Elementary. And I believe that is the end of my list, Madam Chair.
Wow. Well, it's that time of year, but congratulations to every single one of those individuals, and we know they'll have a fabulous year ahead of them. All right, we have no strategic plan update. Dr. Jenkins, do we have any changes to the agenda as published?
No changes, Madam Chair.
All right. Seeing there's no changes to the agenda, let me ask if we have any public comment. We do have public hearings for our budget. Do we have any public comments?
No, ma'am. We don't have
Okay.
any online or in person.
Okay.
Or on the phone. Sorry.
All right. Then let's take our first public hearing 3.01, request approval of the adoption of millage to support the 22-23 tentative budget. And Ms. Coccolino, you're recognized.
Thank you. Good evening, Chair Jacobs, board members, Superintendent Jenkins. I certainly can't beat that presentation, our superintendent, but I will bring you a balanced budget.
Thank you.
Before I begin, I would like to recognize, though, my fabulous support team. Judith Padres, Senior Director, Office of Management and Budget, and Ernest Jean-Baptiste, Director, Office of Management and Budget. Okay, so our agenda this evening. Here is our agenda for today's presentation. We will review the proposed millage, proposed budget, and ultimately you will need to adopt the total millage and then adopt the 22-23 tentative budget. We will also establish the date for the final hearing. When you're talking about millage rates, you're talking about property taxes, and property taxes impact both residential and commercial property. Who is responsible for each component that determines your property taxes? Just value, or a property's market value, comes from the property appraiser. The Save Our Homes cap is established by the legislature. The legislature also establishes exemptions such as the homestead exemption, and they determine the millage rate, which is then approved by the board. Slide 5. Here are our property tax values used to help fund the upcoming school year. These dollars help fund both the operating and capital budgets. Last year, we had a 2.6% increase in taxable values. This year, our taxable values increased by 17.7%, based upon the certified tax roll calculated by our property appraiser. The current projection, as you can see, is fairly steady growth of about 5% per year over the next 5 years. This is based on the dollar increase for each of the Office of Economic and Demographic Research, EDR, forecast years added to the 2022 preliminary tax roll. The real estate market has been volatile, as evidenced by significant increases in home prices. As a result, the certified school taxable value is higher than forecasted. EDR meets again in August, and the estimated escalation will likely be adjusted. This graph will be updated for the final budget based on the new estimates. The required local effort, or RLE, is a specific amount that we must levy to receive state funding. This is equalized statewide so that if our assessments go up, our state revenues go down. Discretionary millage is the maximum amount allowed by law. Because we levy the full amount, we receive $8.9 million in additional state dollars to get us up to the state average per student. The additional voted millage is the amount overwhelmingly approved by the voters in August of 2018. It is worth noting the additional voted millage is up for renewal this coming August, and pending approval, will continue to provide much-needed operating funds in fiscal years 2024 through 2027. Capital projects millage is the maximum amount allowed by law to support our capital program. Overall, there is a rate reduction of 0.275 mils, or 4.08%. The reduction is because statewide taxable values increased compared to the original state estimate used in the first FEFP calculation. The legislature approves a certain dollar amount to be generated by the required local effort. The significant increase in property values would have resulted in more local effort funding beyond what was approved by the legislature. And therefore, a reduction was made to the RLE to generate only the dollar amount approved during the legislative session. This is the history of Orange County Public Schools millage rates. Required local effort, set by the state, is the red rate in the middle of each bar. You can see that the RLE has decreased by 2.211 mils since FY 2010. The legislature sets the millage rate school districts are required to levy. The rollback rate is a calculation that eliminates the impact of increased valuation. It is only used in the advertisement of the budget and in the millage adoption language. The required local effort is 6.24% over the rolled back rate. The total millage is 10.62% over the rolled back rate. On slide 10, with Save Our Homes, residential property can only increase 3% or CPI, Consumer Price Index, December to December, whichever is less. CPI is 4.7%. And therefore, 3% is the maximum increase for applicable asset assessed values. With the increase of 3% in assessed value and a decrease in the tax rate of 4.08%, the homeowner of a $265,100 home would pay $18 less in taxes. Commercial property is not limited to Save Our Homes. When the increase in property values are combined with a 4.08% reduction in the millage rate, the change in taxes paid for the owner of a piece of commercial property valued at $1 million is an increase of $621 for the year, or about $52 per month. As you can see, the budget process is continuous year-round. Remember, the budget is a plan for the year. We must adopt the millage and approve a total amount for the budget. How the dollars are spent is not set in stone and can be amended throughout the year. On slide 14, the budget summary identifies items that affect the district budget. Board members continue to identify staff as a priority, and dollars have been appropriated for increases in compensation. We are pleased to have reached tentative agreements on salary increases with both unions pending ratification. The budget also includes increased dollars for safety and for mental health. As a reminder, this budget includes funding for traditional schools, charter schools, and scholarships for students in private schools. Charter students and scholarship students combined are comprising a larger portion of the total budget. The temporary infusion of federal funding has contributed to an increase in fund balance by allowing operating expenses directly related to the pandemic to be shifted to ESSER funding. The budget maintains focus on the district's strategic plan. The last bullet comes directly from the current special millage language, and this budget preserves academic programs, retains highly qualified teachers, and protects arts, athletics, and student activities. The special millage is folded into your operating budget and accounts for nearly 10% of recurring dollars to support the current level of operations. Here is a summary of the 5 major funds that make up the operating budget. Each fund has unique types of revenues and appropriations designed to accomplish specific purposes. The Capital Projects Fund does not include carryover project balances. They will be amended in September at the final hearing. Special revenue includes our food service program as well as other special revenue. The general fund is the operating budget of the district. The primary source of funding comes from the Florida Education Finance Program, or FEFP. An increase in base student allocation, the BSA, of $214 per student, or 4.9%, and the incremental increase of $18.9 million in the teacher salary increase categorical allocation provides a much-needed boost to recurring revenues. Per-student funding is equalized statewide. Equalization means that increased revenue from local sources does not necessarily cause an overall increase in funding. For instance, an increase in required local effort revenues is offset by a reduction in state revenues. However, the additional voted millage is not equalized, which means we keep all revenues generated to benefit the students of Orange County Public Schools. Slide 19 shows the actual FTE for past years along with the projection for next year. Our current projection for fiscal year 2023 is 214,554 FTE, an increase of 4,251 FTE over the fourth calculation of 210,303. This forecast incorporates all K-12 students, including charter school and scholarship students. However, it does not include VPK students. For 2023 and beyond, the combined Family Empowerment Scholarship, or FES students, are now comprised of FES, Gardner, and McKay students. Slide 20 is a new slide to show the breakdown of FTE by traditional, charter, and scholarship students, and to highlight the rapid increase in scholarship FTE as shown in the orange bars. 2018-19 is a benchmark year and only includes McKay students. The Family Empowerment Scholarship was signed into law in May of 2019, and FES Scholarship FTE was folded into district counts starting in 2019-20. Charter enrollment has remained mostly flat as reflected in the dark blue bars. Our traditional enrollment, as indicated in the lighter blue bars, dipped in 2021, corrected a bit in 2022, and we're forecasting slight growth for 2023. This chart shows a comparison of per-student funding from the second calculation since July of 2007. We use the second calculation because that is the calculation in effect at the time of the adoption of the budget. For the upcoming year, our regular per-student funding is $856 above July of 2007. Second calculation shown in orange. For 2023, we have a 5.02% increase in regular FEFP funding over the prior year. Our special millage shown in dark blue, including our special millage shown in dark blue, our total per student increase is $490 per student, or 5.71% over last year. Even with the special millage, you can see we still have a reduction in purchasing power of about $722 per student over the July 2007 amount. Thanks again to the voters in Orange County for supporting the special millage, which helps tremendously to sustain the programs in our schools. To be consistent, we illustrate an annual CPI, Consumer Price Index, from December to December, which at 4.7% explains only a slight increase in 2022. Inflation has been modest over the last 14 years, with overall CPI increases of less than 2% on average until now. Next year's graph when current inflationary increases are accounted for 2023 will reflect a significant spike in the CPI. Here is a graph of state general revenue in support of education. The percentage of general revenue going to education decreased from 48.8% to 43%. The percentage remains well below the pre-lottery amount of over 60%, as well as below the funding level during the Great Recession. While difficult to determine from this chart, for 2023, there is a significant increase in total general revenue in the total general revenue state budget of $7.4 billion, or 20.3%. And although the general revenue for education increased by $1.1 billion, education as a percentage share of the total decreased, as evident in this chart. The general revenue does not include any of the federal funding appropriated through the state in 2022. This graph shows you the percentage of general revenue going to support K-12 schools over the past 10 years. As you can see, the percentage of state general revenue supporting public schools has decreased this year. There has been a substantial investment in education. As mentioned in the previous slide, the 2022-2023 appropriation excludes the carryover of federal ESSER funding that was appropriated in the 21-22 year. In the early years of the Florida lottery, 60 to 70% of lottery dollars coming to education were for public schools, as seen in the green bars. That number is now only 39%. Of the 39% coming to public schools, none of these dollars would be considered educational enhancement. 88% supports the regular FEFP funding, and 12% is for the district's post-secondary fund program. School recognition, which could be considered an educational enhancement, is not funded through the lottery in 2023. For this year, due to the large reserves at the state level, the program will be funded using general revenue. The orange or rust-colored bars at the top, which represents 31% of lottery funds, is primarily funding the Bright Futures Scholarship Program. Here is the breakdown of our estimated revenues by source. There was very little change in these percentages. The federal slice does not include ESSER funding, as this chart represents the general fund operating revenues, and the small federal portion is indicating what we receive in Medicaid reimbursement and ROTC funding. As noted in the budget summary on an earlier slide, compensation is the #1 priority in this budget and includes salary increases for staff while also fulfilling the statutory requirement to increase the minimum wage to $15 an hour by October 1st. The district received $1.5 million in additional mental health assistance funding, which aligns with the board's priority to support social and emotional learning. An additional $2.3 million in Safe Schools funding is utilized to secure SROs for all of our schools and pursue other initiatives and strategies to ensure the safety of our students and staff. The last 3 bullets come directly from the current special millage ballot language. As noted earlier in the presentation, the special millage continues to be folded into your operating budget and treated as recurring revenue to support our current level of operation. We continue to explore ways to capture additional cost savings, and we're being proactive in finding reductions to recurring expenditures. Slide 28 identifies other budget items, that impact the budget. The legislative budget includes another significant increase in the FRS rates employers are required to contribute, which will increase our retirement costs by $10.4 million to the general fund. If we add in food and nutrition services as well as grants, the total impact is $12.6 million to all funds. The increase in the BSA is utilized in part to offset the increased cost to retirement. Enrollment continues to be impacted by Family Empowerment Scholarship students. Although the FTE forecast estimates some growth in our traditional students, The majority of the growth is in scholarship students. Funding tied to scholarship enrollment goes directly to private schools. The continued reliance on the additional voted millage, which sunsets in June of 2023, will have an impact on future budget development. Next month, Orange County residents will have an opportunity to approve the continuation of the additional 1 mil to fund operating expenses, to compensate teachers and support staff, and to preserve academic programs, arts, athletics, and student activities. Currently, the 1 mil is expected to generate an estimated $194 million this year, or more than $906 per student. As noted earlier, the special millage continues to be folded into your operating budget to support our current level of operations. The additional revenue is critical to sustaining the level of service the district has been able to provide since the 2011-2012 fiscal year. Since the inception of the special millage, OCPS has provided charter schools their proportionate share of the revenues. ESSER funding continues to support academic acceleration and will sunset in 2024. On slide 29, functional appropriations remain fairly constant. Around 76% of all appropriations are in the instruction and instructional support functions. The district continues to have the lowest administrative cost per student among large urban districts in the state, and the 8th lowest expenditure level of all 67 districts. We are also well below any other comparable large district. While this is impressive, we need to compare to see if we are too lean during such challenging times. And this concludes the general fund portion of your budget. Judith Padres will now present the capital budget.
Yeah, let's pause for a question, if we could. Member Gold?
So once again, when we get it in black and white, it always smacks me. I want to give some credit where credit is due, but then I want to talk about some of the concerns that I have. If we could go to slide, I think it is 21.
Excuse me, which number?
21.
21? Okay.
Which has the CPI comparison on it. So I see that we've had a bigger gain going from 806 to 906.29, which is great. That's the highest rate of gain we've had since I've been on the board. And if I heard you correct, and from what I know, part of this is due to the increase that we've gotten from the state. And part of it is reflective of the ESSER dollars. Is that correct?
No, ma'am.
No. So explain what makes up that additional $50 gain in such a significant way.
Additional $50?
Well, we've had about a $50 to $40 gain per year, somewhere in there for the last several years, instead of that $100 from 806 to 906. So we doubled. Woohoo.
So are you talking, so the orange
In that
bars are the
special-
FEFP, the blue bars are the special millage?
Correct.
The special millage has increased considerably because our property values have increased 17.7%. We keep the special millage portion of that.
Okay, so that is where that has helped us tremendously. But now, going back to the RLE, now where credit is also due, where there was a rollback when it wasn't legislated for the first time since I've been on the board, but it happened because nobody was paying attention, in my opinion, to that rollback. If you'll go back to the RLE slide.
And that they were using projections from the January forecast is what was used for the legislative session.
Great, but most economists were, and we knew that there was already a dip starting to happen and rental prices really starting to happen. Yeah, that one. So because they did not acknowledge the rent prices that were going up and the true cost of living that was going up, they let this kind of slide through. And so by statute, it automatically rolled back because we had that extension.
Correct.
So once again, the school system in this state was penalized when there is now a 17 to 19% inflation rate going on in this state, and housing prices that are a third to doubling when people are having to move or their rents, leases are expiring. Is there any opportunity? I know we need to move this budget forward because there's no remedy for this problem tonight. But is there any opportunity between now and the next session to look at this statute or rule and try to free up some of that big bank of money that's sitting up in Tallahassee?
So the RLE is established in the General Appropriations Act, but it's a dollar amount. It is not a millage. So it's that dollar amount. And then now with the increased values, they had to back into that. And that's why you see the RLE come down.
So one of the things we may want to discuss going forward in the legislative committee is, could there be a waiver or an exception on how that is calculated for school funding? Because that's going to continue to hurt us because we're not in the same circumstances as the Great Recession. People are not overstretched in how they bought their homes and buying bigger houses with funny money. That hasn't happened. So there's some economic indicators that are more stable. Will housing prices stay as high? Perhaps not, but they're not going to go back to, it would be highly unlikely, in my opinion, that they'd go back to, even 2018 or 19 or 20 pricing. So that is very difficult. Now go back to 21 again, my favorite slide of all time, next to the capital slide, which is the mother of slides of all time. I just want our community to truly understand that when our legislators went into special sessions, yes, there were some really important things they had to talk about, but this should have been one of them. We continue to have very high growth in this state. We continue to have extremely high growth in our community in particular and in our region. And this stresses our system over and over and over again. On top of trying to drive back learning gains from a worldwide shutdown practically and a retraction out of no matter what side of the philosophical line you're on, it caused people to retract, either because it was asked for them to retract or because they chose to retract out of the health and welfare for their families. And we just need to find a way to better close this gap. Without the special millage, thanks to our taxpayers, we would have zero programs that really accelerated us to an A district, no matter how smart and clever and brilliant our staff and our leadership is. Because there's only so many tools that creativity can use, and after that you got to buy some enhanced tools to get to that next level. And so that's what this is. If this ever goes away, this would put us back, I would say, over 10 years at the rate of inflation and the rate of retraction. So again, there's no relief from this challenge tonight, but it is sorely disappointing when everybody saw the path to this this inflation rate, especially in Florida, because we were such, and continue to be such, a popular state to move to. And who's not going to take advantage of that if somebody comes and offers you double for your house? Who's not going to take advantage of that? Of course they are. That's the capitalism side of our society. That's great. But we have to have our infrastructure in place. And schools
are more than infrastructure, they're our futures. So I just wanted to highlight that and more vent than ask a question.
Thank you, Member Gould. Member Castellano.
Thank you, Madam Chair. And thank you for your presentation so far. I know we're just halfway through. Can you go to slide 26? That was it, the pie.
26, the green
Yeah.
one? 25? Oh,
25, sorry, 25. So I have a question about the percentages of local and state revenue sources. This is just for Orange County, is that right?
correct.
Do all the districts have the same pie? Is it cut up the same way? Or do we have, were there like more rural counties or smaller counties? Do they have a different mix of state and local?
Smaller, more rural counties, those that don't have a large tax base, taxable property values, would have considerably more state funding and a much smaller sliver of local funding. When you look at somebody like a Palm Beach County, they have well more local funding and less state funding. That's what we mean when we say equalized statewide.
And that local portion is based on property values?
The required local effort, yes.
Okay. And the state portion is mainly the sales tax? State sales tax.
FEFP, not sales tax. Well, FEFP is, sales tax does provide a lot of the funding for the FEFP, but the state side is the FEFP funding.
Okay, thank you. And when you are referring to scholarships, those are vouchers for private schools and religious schools?
Correct.
Okay, I just want to make sure that people are aware of what that scholarship is for. It's not for use in our schools.
Correct.
Okay.
Those dollars never come to us.
It's public schools, public money for private schools.
Correct.
Okay, that's all I have for now. Thank you.
Thank you, Member Castellano. I think the only slide I'll ask us to pull up is slide 22. And just after focusing on some of Member Gould's slides of interest, is the fact that we have more money coming from the state this year, but how far down the percentage of the state's general revenue going to education has dropped, which tells you the flip side of this is the state has a tremendous amount more money this year than they had last year, that they can afford to give us more money and still show this kind of a drop. Now, I know the state has other challenges, and perhaps what I would really love for us to be able to do is to bring somebody in that could give us a walkthrough of the state's budget. We used to do this at the county, Dr. Jenkins, and the guy that we had was phenomenal. He knew the state budget. He knew the ins and outs of what they could afford to do and couldn't afford to do, and it was always helpful to us to try to get a better understanding of what they were dealing with so that we knew where we could most reasonably ask. Unfortunately, he went back to work for the Department of Revenue, but perhaps he's not there anymore. But it would be something that we might want to try to do once a year. You mentioned Sean Snaith. Sean Snaith is a great guy as far as an economist, but this is somebody who is just specializes in... And yes, definitely. No, doing them together would be, and having an economic session like we do like we started doing when I became mayor at the county, once a year. And I think that would be a good idea for us to get a real handle, and having both of them would be perfect. So let's shoot for that at the beginning and generally it's the beginning of the calendar year because we want to be really focused on what's happening with the legislature. Okay? Thank you. Member Gallo.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Most of my questions were answered already, thankfully, or discussed. I want to circle back because I'm not certain how this didn't compute in my brain to the RLE. I didn't realize that the state puts in a dollar amount, not a percentage. Because I was under the impression when I was in Tallahassee that this was the first year they were not going to roll back the RLE, and I got a little excited about it. And then I realized, looking at the numbers, I missed something along the way because it did roll back. So it was just basically from their miscalculation in Tallahassee?
Well, when they had no intention of rolling back, as we have known that term, I believe prior year was 3.6. So when they are in the legislative session going through estimates, they're
estimate
taking the
3.6.
3.6 with what the property values were at that time. They came up with a dollar amount that is part of the General Appropriations Act.
So they have, what's it called? Can't remember. They have like a budget conference in the legislature where people in the Senate, so that they can come and fix errors like this. When they, when the EDD or EDR gets together up in Tallahassee, they look at it when they find problems in this budget, it's Legislative Budget Committee, LBC, can get together and fix these errors. Would this be something that the legislator could come together and fix, to Member Gould's point? Like, could they meet? Could we ask for them to meet and fix the error because their intention was to not roll it back?
I don't think that their intention was not to roll it back. Their intention was to give a certain amount of money to each school district. And the RLE is a little tricky. They know that as Ms. Cuclino was saying, Palm Beach County is very land rich. The property values are very high. So if they were allowed to keep the same RLE as we kept, they would have a lot more money going into their schools. So in order to equalize it, to make sure that every student is getting an equal education and the same relative value of an education, they've come up with how much money each school is going to get. And then they look at that and say, in order for you to get that, let's see, in Orange County, here's how much money needs to come locally. And then they back into, if this is the local amount you need, the pot is $100 million, then your millage is going to be this.
Based on this property value.
Yes, based on this property value.
that's
But
why-
then the property value turned out to be different than they expected. And that caused them then to say, oh, you guys are going to get too much money down there in Orange County. Your property taxes went up more than we thought. But we can't do this. We can't let you do that because Pasco County, theirs didn't go up. So they're not going to get as much money. So what are we going to do for Pasco County? Well, the state doesn't want to pay more for them. Then the way they equalize it is they bring us back down to where they intended us to be.
So I thought that .748, that discretionary fund, I thought that discretionary fund was to do just what you mentioned, to create a more equal balance across the districts, which is why some get the .748 discretionary and some don't.
Everybody gets .748.
Everybody
discretionary.
gets it?
Correct.
Is there another line item that equals that out, or no? They just take it back?
What did you say, Doreen?
I'm sorry.
You said everybody gets the
The .748 discretionary millage.
So
Is-
everybody gets that regardless of how much money you pull down? I thought, like when I looked at the budget from the state, that some didn't get it, so I was wrong.
No, and it's equalized, but we get .748. Everyone gets .748. And this year, I've got to find my notes, I believe that was an additional $8.9 million.
So, okay, so I thought that .748, what was used to kind of equalize it, so if there's a lot of money in the pot, so for example, if Palm Beach County got more money, then that .748 would equalize the rest of the 66 districts. But I guess that would be expensive.
Equalized to the state average.
Oh, okay, that's what was confused me, okay.
So it is confusing because you've got the RLE that does this equalizing thing, and then you've got what's the other thing that they use to make sure that the cost of living in Palm Beach County is a lot higher than here.
District cost differential.
DCD, yeah.
You've got to take that
trying
into
to get rid of that.
consideration. It gets terribly complicated, which is anytime I have found myself, anytime things get complicated, it's a time to pay very close attention because a lot of things can go wrong when they get complicated because nobody can figure it out.
Yeah.
And I'm not saying anybody's doing something nefarious, but like I'm a big believer in the media keeping an eye on things, and I have found that when stuff gets complicated, you lose everybody. So it wouldn't hurt for us to have a refresher course on this, just focus on this. Why don't we do this? Actually, we'll have some new board members, and we'll be doing this through FSBA probably.
Yeah.
But it's just like you can't hear it enough, I don't think.
Yeah, and I think, and when you're looking at the budget in Tallahassee and you're breaking it down by what, because they do break it down very well, and I can understand that budget. What I can never wrap my head around is taking that budget and putting it into our budget, because it's like apples and oranges. You can't, it doesn't correlate, it doesn't add up, so it's impossible to see like where those categorical or the categoricals you can say they're named the same thing in our budget, but it is difficult. So to have someone come in and go, okay, here's Tallahassee's money and this is where it isn't on your budget, but it's I don't know that can be done, because it's a little bit more complicated than kind of lining them up that I've found over the last 4 years.
Let me go to Member Gould. Were you done?
I have one more question.
Oh, please.
So I think you said it, all the money that comes from our FES, which is all the scholarships, including McKay, and all of that was brought into us, where that used to be a separate pot of money that never came through the school system.
No, all the same, but it was called McKay, and then it was called McKay and FES, and then it was McKay, FES, and Gardner, and now, whenever we hear FES,
It's all of them
It's
together.
all of
and
them
that changed
together.
last year, correct?
for this year.
For this year. So it's one big pocket of money, so it looks like we're getting money, but it's never earmarked for us.
It's not for us, it's for the.
But we have to put it in our budget, so it gets
We
confusing.
do have to put it in our budget. The legislature needs a place to appropriate.
A placeholder.
So each of the districts, for the students and the private schools within that district, we have to track the FTE, and we have to budget the dollars.
So when those dollars come into our budget and we calculate an average FTE, or the state is calculating an average FTE per student, is that number included in the average of the FTE?
They don't come into our budget, but right now they are included in the, going back to Board Member Gould's favorite slide, the 8,021, let me see.
So that 8,000.
$164, that's our per student, and those dollars are included in that.
So that number will be much lower, not much lower, but will be somewhat lower when they pull out that $100 million.
Well, not necessarily, because the 13,000 FTE are going with them.
Okay. So, that makes sense. So the students, everything goes with them. Okay. It all just moves on down the road.
Right.
Okay. And then I know that we've talked about this before, but since we're having a budget meeting, I feel like I just need to mention it. The referendum is up on August, and I know that we discussed a separate line item, but I really would like to see a separate line item within our budget, just so that when the money comes in, we can see it. And that's it.
Yes, absolutely. Member Member Gould.
Well, I just wanted to kind of follow up on your explanation of the RLE and the equalizer, and I totally think I get that. I can't for sure ever say I get all of this. But the state as a whole has had an inflation rate that averages out. And what I've read recently, it's somewhere between 15 and 17%. The national is between 17 and 19%. So we should have been able to keep that money.
Which takes us back to that.
Okay.
If we just could keep our share.
Correct.
If we could just keep our share of the revenues, our teachers would be paid substantially more. All of our employees would be paid substantially more. And we wouldn't be having these problems with finding bus drivers. We wouldn't have these problems with portable classrooms if we just could have kept our share. Member Castor-Dental.
Thank you, Madam Chair, and thank you, Member Gould, for bringing up, pointing out the change in the RLE rate and how the rollback isn't really a rollback when they determine how much we're going to be getting. they've already got the outcome that they need. And sometimes it's frustrating when you try to impose logic on people in Tallahassee. So it is hard to understand where people are coming from. So if I could ask that our legislative liaisons and government relations, Scott Howitt and Jason Lagosh, if they're able to keep a close eye on the budget process in Tallahassee, I know they do, but if they could watch for that in particular and let us know when that is predetermined or when it appears in the budget, so that we can speak out to the legislators and to whoever we need to know, who needs to know, so that we can bring attention to it. Because I kind of feel like we were snookered in this one, and it hurts. Eventually, it hurts all of our students when we're cut so much. And they're able to do that with a smile and saying that they still gave us more money than ever. So if we could have just a closer eye on that process in Tallahassee, that would be helpful, I think. Thank you.
Move on to capital?
Yes.
And now the capital projects fund. The total capital budget is $1.8 billion. The primary revenue sources are sales surtax, property tax, and impact fees. This budget includes minimal state support for capital. The primary uses are for comprehensive renovations, new schools, capital renewal, and debt service and operations. On slide 32, this graph reflects our 5-year forecast of capital revenues. The light blue line for other state revenue shows our capital outlay and debt service projected appropriation. Based on the current fiscal year, we are anticipating to receive $7.3 million. In yellow is the state's PICO appropriation to charter schools. For fiscal year 23, the projected appropriation is $8.6 million. As you will notice, there is no funding allocated in fiscal years 2024 through 2027, as it is unknown if the legislature will appropriate funds in future years. The district has not received PICO maintenance dollars for traditional schools since fiscal year 20. The gray bar represents our sales tax revenue projections. The Office of Economic and Demographic Research anticipates a decline in sales tax revenues for fiscal year 2023 and a slight increase in subsequent years. This is a result of inflation. As the purchasing power goes down, consumers begin to spend more money on non-taxable necessities like food and healthcare. For fiscal year 23, we're projecting to collect $299 million, or a decrease of 5% from this past year's collections. The orange bar shows our impact fees. We're projecting to receive $80.9 million in fiscal year 23. This projection is based on current year collections and historical permit trends. Revenues will ultimately be impacted by the increase in interest rates and housing inventory, offset by population growth in the county. The blue bar represents our 1.5 capital mill revenue projections, which for fiscal year 23 amount to $292 million. Estimates are based on the district's updated property assessed valuation. This graph illustrates our recommended capital projects use of funds for fiscal year 23. Carry-forward funds have not been incorporated into the budget. With your approval, the largest portion of our capital budget is allocated to additional schools at 29%, followed by district-wide capital at 25%, which includes appropriations for district-wide construction, functional equity, ancillary, major painting projects, capital renewal, and site improvements. The third largest is debt service and operations at 23%. This includes the funding needed to meet our debt service obligation, as well as our capital renewal and maintenance transfers. On slide 34, the tentative capital plan reflects the following: funding for 17 relief schools, 10 elementary schools, 1 K-8, 5 middle schools, and 1 high school. The opening year is based on recommendations and feedback received from both the Advanced Planning Committee and the Capital Program Steering Committee. Functional equity. The recommended budget includes $5.9 million for projects that are primarily intended to add permanent instructional space and reduce some portable instructional spaces. It also allocates funding to a list of pre-2003 sales tax schools. These schools are earmarked for projects based on the capital needs as identified in the district's condition assessment. Funding is also included for repurposing schools. And for capital renewal, in accordance with the referendum, a portion of the sales tax revenues is transferred to the Capital Renewal Fund to cover major system replacement needs. This plan continues to fund that transfer. Based on need, we're anticipating that the Capital Renewal Fund will be fully committed by fiscal year 27. Next slide. These are our recommended 5-year new school openings. There's no change from what we presented during the May 22nd work session. As mentioned before, this recommended list of new schools openings is based on the Advanced Planning Committee recommendations and has been approved by the Capital Program Steering Committee. We have 5 new schools opening this August, which include 3 elementary, 1 middle, and 1 K-8 school. In August of 2023, 1 middle school will open based on this recommendation. Slide 36. In August of 2024, we're recommending to open 4 new schools, including 2 elementary, 1 middle, and 1 high school. In 2025, the plan includes the opening of 1 new elementary school. Now, our comprehensive projects that are entering construction. This slide only shows those projects that are moving into the construction phase this fiscal year. As this slide reflects, Orange Technical College East and West campuses, and as part of our pre-2003 sales tax schools, 3 Points, Howard Middle School, and Lakeview Middle School will be moving into construction. As you know, we have other projects that are on their 2nd year of construction that are not shown on this slide, such as Orange Technical College, which is the campus here downtown. Comprehensive projects entering design. The design of Avalon, Camelot, Citrus, and Endeavor, as well as Ocoee Middle School, will be starting in fiscal year 23. As noted above, these schools are part of the pre-2003 sales tax schools. On slide 39, our recommended CIP also includes funding for buses which are on a 9-year replacement cycle, portable moves and leasing, which is included to help manage population fluctuations. Of the $26.3 million, $8.9 million is for leasing, and $17.4 million is for portable moves and installations. $8.6 million for charter schools as a flow-through from the state. And there are also dollars included in the plan for district-wide painting needs and for digital technology replacement, which addresses replacement of classroom technology and digital-related infrastructure. This concludes the capital portion of our budget presentation.
Okay. Member Gould.
Just a couple of things that I get every single year, so I figured I'd ask them now from my constituents. One is, and I know the answer, but you all explained it better, why do we have debt?
I think there were, during the earlier years when we had to do, when we had to pay for our construction projects and we didn't have the revenues, we had to issue debt. And this budget includes, I believe it's $90 million to cover that obligation.
And even in that time, it was based on projections when we did acquire debt, projections of what we thought we were going to get. We just didn't go out and willy-nilly borrow money. It was always based on revenue that were coming in. Okay.
Yeah, we have to ensure we have the revenue to cover the debt.
And that's why we keep our bond rating so high, is because if we ever need to exercise that again for any reason to bridge the time from when we have cash and are expecting cash, and there's a gap time in there, the higher the bond rating, the cheaper it is to buy money, basically. Okay. There's a lot of money going into replacements and new things like buses and buildings and such. Could you talk a little bit about, and not, I know it's not off the top of your head, you'll know this number, but if you could share a little bit about some of the alternative energies that we are looking at that may be may not be as high of an investment as we originally thought with prices right now. It may actually have a quicker return, but I know we're looking at experimenting with some buses, that we're looking at a solar field, all of those things, which I think as a large user of a lot of energy, it's important for people to know that we're fiscally responsible, but investing in that technology. So if you could share a little bit about any of those alternative energies and alternative energy saving ways.
I think through a grant, we're actually funding some electric buses. I think we have to get back with you with more information on some of the alternative energy program we have.
Yeah, that definitely comes up from my constituents. That's it for my questions. Thank you.
Member Byrd.
Thank you. The new West Side Tech, Member Gould, is going to have solar all on the roofs, I believe, enough to run the main building there, I believe. So she asked my question about the buses. That was the one question I had about the electric buses. But the portables, our amount of portables, I would assume, is going down the more schools we build. The new schools, like I know one of my schools, my two schools in Apopka are losing all their portables. And there was a lot with Kelly Park School opening. So how has the amount of money that we're spending on portable leasing or moves, or not moves, but leasing, gone down?
I actually have a number that speaks to the portable inventory history, and there is a forecast, and there is definitely a decrease. This may be one of the items that will be addressed during the facilities update. And I have to do quick math, but I think the numbers show that in 21 we went from 1,800 portables down to 1,571 in 2022. If my math, yeah.
Okay, thank you.
One observation regarding debt, but my colleague here has left. There are times when taking out debt to build schools makes sense. There's times when the cost of building schools is escalating year after year, where it might make more sense to borrow the money, depending upon the payback rate, the interest rate, and lock in the price of the infrastructure earlier. So it's not, I don't know who is asking the questions about how did we acquire debt, but I don't know what the situation was then, but it isn't always a bad decision. Mm-hmm. Secondly, I know it's huge, but what percentage of our capital budget does our sales tax make up?
So I'm going to have to do some quick math here. It is 299 million out of the and I'm speaking to 23 out of the 690 million. So about 40% or so.
A frightening.
Right?
A
299.
frightening amount of money when you. So we need these both to pass very, very much. Thank you. But we've done tremendously well. I mean, our capital budget and what we've been able to do with it compared to the rest of the school districts across the nation is really just second to none. So I don't have any reason to think we won't continue that. But even if for some reason we didn't, you still have to look at this as an incredible gift. So. Oh, I'm sorry. I'm chairing this meeting. Member Felder. I was like, why isn't somebody saying something?
I know. That's okay. We probably, I think when we talked personally about the budget before coming here. I think we probably addressed, but I just want to make sure I have an understanding.
Yeah, I need a cookie.
I'm on page 39. It's quite all right. Page 39, the portable moves and leasing was $26.3 million. And we're constantly building new schools because we have to, because this Central Florida is growing at an alarming rate, seriously. So, okay, help me understand. $26.3 million for portable moves? What do you mean, moving the portables out or moving them in?
It's portable moves and installations. Sometimes we'll move them from one school to another. So that's what that covers.
Okay, so, and these portables are coming to new schools?
Not necessarily.
Okay. Help me understand. Okay, we're building new schools. Is the rate of, the growth rate, population growth rate of children is faster than what we can build? Oh, okay. Because I'm really having I'm like, we spending money building schools and we yeah, I know. I wrote out International Drive 2 weeks ago, and I was just, it's like I was in a different city. And I'm like, God, whoever the school board member, I knew it was Pam. I said, Jesus. But I'm just, and I know we're doing the best we can to count every dollar in terms of what we're doing. But, and we really need help from the state in a real way, and not for them to roll back stuff. But anyway, so we're getting the growth population faster than we can build the schools. Okay, because I'm looking at, we spending $26.3 million for portables, and we've already spent these large amount of monies for schools. Okay. All righty then. Thank you.
And coming back to Member Gould's comment about our legislative agenda, actually our legislative agenda last year was, part of it was to try to get relief on the capital side for high growth districts so that we could increase the 1.5 capital millage rate back up to the 2%, to the 2 mills, with the idea that maybe if they would just look at the high growth districts, they could get past the fact that it's an increase. But anyway, I think we should continue to work on that effort. All right, what's next? Pam's subject, debt. You missed my pitch for debt. Debt can have its place.
The Debt Service Fund. This fund is used to retire the indebtedness the school district has incurred for construction projects. The primary source of funds is a transfer from the Capital Projects Fund. There were no significant changes in the Debt Service Fund. Special revenue. The Special Revenue Fund includes the district's food service program and special revenue other funds. The other funds are primarily school internal accounts and extended day programs. Other federal grants, such as ESSER, Title I, IDEA, are amended into the budget as approved. The food service program is supported primarily by federal reimbursement, USDA commodities, and also from fees charged for meals served. Food and Nutrition Services ended 2022 with a gain in fund balance. During the 21-22 school year, the USDA granted flexibilities that allowed program operators to continue serving free meals to all children until May 30th, 2022. For the 2022-23 school year, the waiver has expired, and students will receive meals according to their meals benefit status, free, reduced, or paid. The economy of scale in food preparation and the increased federal reimbursement rate for all meal benefits should allow Food and Nutrition Services, F&S, to operate at a gain in 2023. And there are no changes to meal prices for the coming year. Special revenue other are funds restricted or committed for specific purposes. School internal accounts are used to account for monies collected and dispersed by each school through fundraisers and other student-related extracurricular and co-curricular activities. Extended day accounts are used to account for all monies collected and dispersed in support of the program. The extended day program's before and after school activity provides a safe and supportive environment for children. The main source of revenue here is user fees. The Internal Service Fund
Can we
accounts for
pause
the...
for just a moment there. Member Gould, question on this point? Member Byrd? Okay.
I just had a question about the lunches. I have heard recently there are some school districts that are have chosen to continue free meals this year, I guess because of the, inflation and everything. So I'm just wondering, how they're doing that? And is that a possibility for our district?
I will certainly explore that and get back to you with that.
Okay. Thank you.
Member Gould?
My question actually follows up on that. So I would anticipate as things in people's housing continues to transition, that we're going to see people's circumstances change. So they may start the year with the ability to pay if we can't offer a free and reduced. But one, I think we implemented a few years ago, and this is more in policy, so not so much for you, but perhaps for the superintendent, that we wouldn't turn any kids away if their fund depleted, that they would not go without eating. And two, is there a way to be communicating with families throughout the year to say, if your statuses have changed, please contact us for any supports? Mm-hmm.
Madam Chair. Member Gould, absolutely. To the first question, we do not let children go without their meals. We will certainly eat those costs if we need to. Some districts do peanut butter sandwiches or something that's we believe is demeaning to children. We give them their meals. We give them their lunches. Now that the federal government has not immediately continued the free lunches for all, we certainly expect those needs to go up, and we will go back to our old version of providing the meals regardless. Now, concerning a district that has decided to continue it, I'm going to assume that might be because of they have reserves. Remember, Food Nutrition Service is an enterprise that runs separately, and so if they've got enough reserve, they may feel like they're able to front that money for another year. We are still hopeful that there might be additional intervention at the federal level as well, but we'll keep an eye on that.
Go ahead, Member Gould.
I also just wanted to share what a great job not only you have done in the presentation of the budget, but all the way down to the school sites and the divisions who look for every single penny they can find in any way they can get it, whether it is through grants, through partnerships, through enterprise initiatives like our food service and some others, billing for some of the medical services we provide on campus at schools. We try to find everything, and the team has done a phenomenal job being able to sustain some things that may have gone away without those efforts. Because when you look at a budget of this size, it seems like very little dollars, but those little dollars make all the difference to those kids that need those programs. So, thank you.
Thank you, Member Gould. Member Gallo.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Just to echo what's been mentioned about the food service, I had heard that I think Seminole County was raising their prices on their foods. They had decided to raise their meal prices, so I was very pleased that in a time of inflation where everything has gone up, and we see it every day, that we were able to really keep our food prices to where they are, which is low. But I do agree that kids starting the school, what it might look like then versus what it might look like in the middle of the year and the end of the year will be far different. So we do need to be cognizant of that. And I do like that we don't do the peanut butter and jelly, because I've never liked that. It is demeaning to kids. I did have one question too. The school, and I believe I know the answer to this, but I just want to double check. The school districts, the schools in our district get to keep their dollars, right? Like they keep their money and it rolls over after the year, or no? She's looking at me, so I'm going to go.
So we're talking about special, we were talking about.
Well, we were talking about like
Are you talking about like
where it said
the internal accounts?
Yes.
Yes, those are their dollars.
so they keep them up and they roll over. Okay. I thought that because at one time, didn't we used to kind of pull them back, and we don't do that anymore? So that, okay, thank you.
All right. Back to you.
Thank you. Internal Service Fund. The Internal Service Fund accounts for the district's Employee Benefit Trust Fund, Property Casualty Loss Fund, and Printing Services Fund. The Employee Benefit Trust Fund revenue comes from board contributions for employee coverage and deductions for employee and dependent coverage. The expenditures of this fund include payments for medical claims, prescriptions, and mental health. In prior years, through ESSER funding, the district was able to reimburse the Employee Benefit Trust for the cost of COVID claims and prescriptions, totaling $28.4 million. Effective October 1st, 2022, the district will offer 4 plan options, which includes the new SureFit plan, with 2 of the employee-only plan options available at no cost to the employee. Board contributions for employee-only coverage are $9,289 per employee. The Property Casualty Loss Fund includes payments for property, liability, and workers' compensation claims. Revenues for this fund are from charges to other funds. The Printing Services Fund is self-supporting and receives revenues from charges for services to schools and departments. I will turn it back over to the superintendent for comments and discussion. Once discussion is completed, the total millage must be adopted, and subsequently, the 22-23 tentative budget must be adopted and establishment of the date of the final hearing.
Dr. Jenkins, you're recognized.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Certainly want to thank Doreen Concolino and Judith Padres, Ernest Baptiste, and Rick Collins for their studious work regarding our budget. For members of the public who may not be aware, we work on our budget from January until this time, and the board has had work sessions and discussions in the past. I also like to thank the board for their diligence and attention to a very tedious task of having a budget presentation and making sure that we meet your requirements, your priorities for the district. This is, I want to remind you, a living document. It is flexible, adjusted throughout the year with amendments as we find need, but as required by statute, Madam Chair, members of the board, we present to you your balanced budget for adoption, item 3.01 and 3.02, for the 2022-23 school year.
Thank you. Member Gould, you're recognized.
So I know this is flexible and amendable, but I want to get this on record. There has been noticed by my constituents and myself that there has been a reduction in some of the arts programs. And I know the reasons because we went through all of our negotiations, and I just want to make sure even the slightest reductions to those programs we look at and make sure all kids have access, especially when they need uniforms or instruments that are very expensive and those sorts of things, so we don't lose that very special momentum that we have. And I'm going to talk to the finance department specifically about the school that has the greatest concern. But I just want to make sure that we keep an eye on those programmatic things while we're trying to make it up. And once we're, sorry. Go ahead, member. I'm sorry. Back to you, Chair.
Okay.
I was going to say we have a commitment that has not changed. Every child is exposed to the arts. Actually, if you would just share with Deputy Superintendent Vasquez, we don't have cuts that you are speaking of, but certainly happy to look at a particular school if they have some needs.
Dr. Castellano.
I was going to make a motion to adopt the resolution. She can do it.
Okay. So you're going to make a motion, or Member Byrd is going to make a motion?
She's going to read the
No,
resolution.
I'm just reading the.
Oh, and you're reading the resolution? Okay, so let's.
Yes.
Oh, I'm sorry, I thought we would read the resolution. Okay. Go ahead and read the resolution.
Okay. So, whereas Section 200.065, Florida statutes requires that the school board adopt a proposed millage for funding the tentative budget and notify the property appraiser of this action. And whereas the 2022-23 tentative budget is based upon the total millage of 6.462 mills, which is more than the rolled back rate of 10.62% as computed pursuant to Section 200.065 Florida statutes. Now therefore be it resolved by the School Board of Orange County, Florida, that the board does hereby adopt the following proposed millage to support the tentative budget for the 2022-23 fiscal year. Required local effort, 3.214. Basic discretionary, 0.748. Additional voted, 1.000. Capital improvement, 1.500, for a total of 6.462. Be it further resolved that the superintendent immediately inform the Orange County property appraiser of the action of the school board in the manner prescribed by law.
All right, the resolution has been read into the record. We have a motion by Member Castor-Dental. Do we have a second?
So moved.
A second by Member Gallo. Do we have any questions? Member Gould, is that an old, that's old?
That's old.
And that's old. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries unanimously. Member Byrd, you're recognized.
Okay. The next resolution is to approve the budget. Approve the 2022-2023 tentative budget for the general fund, $2,476,476,959. Approve the 2022-2023 tentative budget for the special revenue fund, $272,539,641. Approve the 2022-23 tentative budget for the debt service fund, $235,204,495. Approve the 2022-23 tentative budget for the capital projects fund, $1,822,300,061. Approve the 2022-23 tentative budget for the internal service fund, $391,949,921. Approve the date for the final public hearing for fiscal year 22-23 budget for 5:01 p.m. on September 13th, 2022 at the Ronald Blocker Educational Leadership Center, 445 West Amelia Street, Orlando, Florida.
Thank you. Resolution has been read into the record. Is there a motion?
So moved.
Motion by Member Gould. Is there a second?
Second?
Second by Member Castor-Dental. Couldn't tell whose voice that was for some reason. Any questions, comments? If not, all in favor of the motion, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries with all members present voting in the affirmative. And I do believe we have 2 members that are absent at this time. Okay, non-consent agenda. I'm sorry, let's go to the consent agenda. We had no changes to the consent agenda, correct? Is there a motion to approve the consent agenda as
So moved.
Motion by Member Lopez, seconded simultaneously by Member Gallo. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries with all members present voting in the affirmative. And now on to the non-consent agenda, 1701. Request approval to appoint the Florida School Boards Association Advocacy Representative and Alternative for the 22-23 term. Dr. Jenkins, you're recognized.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Member Gallo, I believe, will still serve as our representative as an alternate. We have had discussions, and Melissa Byrd has agreed to be our alternate.
Thank you, Member Byrd. Is there a motion?
To approve that? I approve. I move.
We have a motion by Member Gold. We have an approval down there by Member Castellanos down as a second.
Second.
All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries unanimously. You are getting punchy. We need to get finished. Okay, Dr. Jenkins, do you have a report for the board? You got your 30-year pen. You don't have to report anymore, right?
I want to at least thank you for my pen. I want to say just a couple of brief comments, and they're right here. Thank you for the 30-year pen, and it was a well-kept secret, and so I appreciate that. Someone will pay the price tomorrow. I so appreciate the recognition. I am not much for big farewell speeches, and I will be around just a little bit longer, but I have to tell you, with the approval of your consent agenda, you have made complete your selection of your next superintendent, Dr. Maria Vasquez. Stand up over there so everyone can see you. Let me just tell you, this work in public education for your CEO is a bit of a marathon race, but it's also a relay. And there comes a time to hand off the baton. And certainly 5 years ago when I went into drop, we didn't know that the pandemic was upon us. Things were looking pretty smooth then. But I have had a tremendous 10 years with this district, and I am extremely confident that the partnership between your new superintendent and this incredible school board will continue to do tremendous things for children in Orange County. And so I don't have to bid you Godspeed just yet, but I do want to thank you for your kindness, for approving even my amended contract, and assure you that I'll be around to continue to help where I'm needed. Thank you, Madam Chair, members of the board.
Thank you. And where exactly is the grasshopper? Okay, any further, I'm sorry, General Counsel, do you have any comments? No. We had no reports by school board members. Any matters that need to come to be agenda to come before the board? Seeing none, we are now adjourned.
That wasn't so bad. Our recognition took